Hi, TEC 160, Tommy Novik is here. I'm going to be talking about passive solar today. This topic interested me because it's a simple and eloquent solution to energy problems, but it never has completely caught on. It's a lost opportunity that we haven't been doing this for the past 50 years, especially after the energy crisis, because it really doesn't cost much more to do it. And yet, we're putting more and more fossil fuels, in the air as a result of not adopting more of these strategies. So after reading this section and going through some case studies, I don't think I'm ever going to look at a home quite the same way again. I'm always going to be wondering whether it's facing south, what its daylighting potential is, and what its passive solar gains are as well. So my approach to this presentation was definitely influenced by one person, actually two people, I should say, in particular, and that's Franklin Lloyd Wright. And the master's student who wrote the thesis on Franklin Lloyd Wright related to passive solar gains, and that was a person by the name of David Gigeru, and he's from Ontario. So obviously Wright is a popular name. I didn't know a whole lot about what his buildings actually looked like, but you pop those up, and I'm going to show them right here. Oh, well, yeah, that's passive solar energy right there. Turns out he was also a pioneer of open concept design. He hated Victorian architecture. I hate Victorian architecture too. So it reminded him of the class system in England, and he really felt like open concept gave families and especially children, more ability to move around and be comfortable in their space. He was seen as a bit of an anti-establishment persona, and the reason is because his homes didn't depend on fossil fuels, and back then that's a big deal. So quite a few banks actually denied his clients loans to pay for the homes because of what he was doing. He found ways around that and worked with them to be able to make it happen. In fact, some of those clients actually, I think, started working on the homes themselves to make the whole thing more cost effective for them. The particular style that he helped birth was Usonian homes, and he built these things in the 30s, 40s, and 50s. Why was it unique? Well, he was employing passive solar principles to these Usonian homes 30 or so years before that term eventually did become in vogue. So through this 75-page thesis, I will admit, while I did read just about all of it, I only got to about 2 pages before I wanted to see what these homes look like. You can see, I'm going to throw it back up on the screen, there was huge floor-to-ceiling windows, big open living spaces next to these windows where the daylight penetrated, and it's certainly in line, obviously, with passive solar design. So what I'm gonna do for the rest of this video is, one, talk about what Gigeru's whole point was for his thesis, and then go into comparing Franklin Lloyd Wright's home with a couple more modern solar homes. And then finally, I'm gonna end with a couple of comments and questions. I'm gonna open with a quote here. So this is Gigeru talking about Franklin Lloyd Wright's approach. The organic architecture philosophy initiated by Frank Lloyd Wright was intended for the building to become one with nature, a building that flows with nature rather than fights nature, respects its rules, and works in unison with them. And then here's a modern home that was created in Denmark, and the name of the home is actually called Soltag. So the designer talking about it, he said they were creating an energy optimized home that lives, breathes, and produces quality of life for people, a healthy organism to call home. So there's something kind of unique happening there. Obviously, you kind of get the idea of organic, that concept is coming out of there. But to me, what's most interesting is that Gigeru's focus is on the home and Wright by extension, while the modern case study is focused on the people living in the structure. Now, don't get me wrong, I think Wright cared a lot about people, in fact, maybe more than anyone when it came to these types of building designs. However, what he believed was that their health was directly tied to their ability to harmonize themselves with nature, with their homes. Gigeru's thesis is simply that Wright has a lot of good working ideas when it came to his approach to passive solar. We're probably working really hard to make these net zero homes, but it may make more sense to go back and look at organic building design. Organic building design is what Franklin Lloyd Wright has always been about, even before he was building these Usonian homes. So he was talking about, bringing people back in harmony with nature, and in addition, these styles of homes actually could make passive solar homes even more affordable. So that would mean less mechanical function. So that's a unique idea because, unfortunately, Franklin Lloyd Wright's a few of those homes were weak in heat like crazy. and Hikaru admits that. In particular, there was one home that they had radiant heat going below the slab, and as a result, it was leaking out into the yard. It was creating green grass in the midst of winter. So they had to relocate that radiant heat inside the slab, and that fixed the problem. But newer homes are getting that envelope, the tight seal on their homes that's going to be making some of these solar gains even more potent as well. So going back to the organic approach to things, could have even higher benefits today than it would have back in Franklin Lloyd Wright's time. Anyways, let's look at this case study here and the different approaches that are taken by these two homes. You can compare the two ventilation systems, for example. The Soltag home is preventing heat losses through a ventilation system at the top of the home. This home takes the heat from spent air to warm up fresh air that's coming back into the home from the outside. So the designers claim that 90% of all heat in that home is captured and is recycled. So the right home, by contrast, is simply using natural airflow and temperature control, utilizing clerestory windows. Odors and stale air would go out through the tall ceilings in the bathroom and the kitchen. In general, Wright didn't think it was necessary to drastically change the temperature in the home as compared to what it was outside, especially when it came to air conditioning. However, one thing that's very different about these two homes is that the Soltag home does not appear to utilize thermal mass. Instead, the underfloor heating is warmed through water pipes that are warmed, or the energy is coming from solar panels. So in contrast, Wright's radiant heat pipes actually went below the slab, as I mentioned before, and then they were relocated. But that's actually a more common practice. So you have a little picture of Wright actually doing the test on the radiant heat in the floor there, and little did he know that thing was going to go awry. So it's undeniable that the Soltag home, with the engineering and time that went into it, wouldn't be probably incredibly cheap today. However, who's to say that that design couldn't be brought to scale? Soltag was especially unique because of its flexibility and ability to diffuse light through the roof, which, according to the authors, offers double the amount of light because those windows were sloped. There were even windows on the north side of the building to evenly distribute light throughout the rest of the home. Those north-facing windows had a higher R value and they did their best not to let heat escape that way. The house also achieves net zero markers by making use of every opportunity to incorporate light and recycle heat through its air, water, and floor heating systems. In passive solar homes, the typical window-to-wall ratio is 25 to 30%. Soltag pretty much splits the difference, gets it at 28%. The Unisonian home, in Hikaru's research, based on his math, the windows were a little bit more than that. He thought they were about 37% of the surface area of the home. And to supplement the energy needed in the winter, that Soltag home, to make it more comfortable, does use photovoltaics. So I'm going to move on to another case study, and this is a home called the Kinagami home. It's located in Quebec. This house resides in weather obviously significantly colder than where the Soltag home was in Denmark, and of course the homes across the United States, in particular the Midwest, that Wright built those Usonian homes. As you can see and guess, this is a pretty insulated home, and it's thermally massive. It has 90% of its windows facing south and employs an impressive amount of insulation, with walls reaching R80 and a concrete slab of R60. It's clear that Usonian homes would probably be out of its league in this area, but at the same time, kind of unfair to judge Wright's homes that way, because he really did try to build the home for the environment. So he probably wouldn't be building it quite the same way in Canada. So this modern home was pretty impressive, though. In its first year after construction, it went a 10-day period in February with these -10 and -20 degree temperatures, where it didn't need to put on a heater. Like, instead, the radiant heat used in the flooring kept the home warm. In fact, just 4 hours of heat through direct sunlight in a typical day in February would provide the home with enough passive solar energy to stay warm and comfortable for 2 days. Thermal mass is obviously the largest crossover between the Usonian homes and the Kinagami house. However, Kinagami has quite a bit in common, of course, with the Soltag home. It possesses a similar mechanical ventilation system, with one key exception with how it handles heat from passive solar energy gains. And instead of a heat recovery unit, it has an energy recovery unit. The difference is that it's capturing humidity during the winter months before it escapes the house, because obviously harder to keep that humidity in the house in the winter months, but then in the summer, it takes the heavy moist air out before it gets into the house as well. So it's being able to monitor that 30 to 55% humidity range pretty effectively. And that's obviously kind of like a more important thing to deal with up north. As Canada's most efficient home, at least back in 2014, Kinagami served as a living laboratory. However, Soltag actually beat it in one area. So the excessive passive solar gains entering the structure in the Soltag home during sunny days would transfer to the hot water tank. So they got free hot water gains that way. The Kinagami home did eventually get that same thing. So in conclusion, obviously kind of a unique juxtaposition between these three homes. It's not exactly fair to judge Wright's homes, right in line with these two modern passive solar homes. However, I will say I admire what Geeker is trying to put attention to here, and that's these organic design principles that still have validity today and potentially have could be lower cost options in some situations where these more advanced technologies get pretty pricey. But developments in passive solar are indeed exciting if price points can stay low. So a combination of these organic and modern technologies could be something that Geeker is kind of onto. So there could be a way of melding those two things, and especially if you feel like Wright had it right when it came to staying one with nature and trying to use these more natural processes to heat and cool homes and stay comfortable within the edifice. So the big thing here is passive solar needs a lot more movement and efforts. The state level, at the national level, we've had photovoltaics gain a lot of attention and support. However, this passive solar thing has got to get off the ground. Otherwise, we have another missed opportunity, and it's going to go another 50 years, and we're still going to be trying to make up all these energy gains that we wouldn't necessarily have to if we had better insulated homes that were utilizing daylight and passive solar gains. So that's a big takeaway for me. It's obviously a high potential place for growth in the renewable energy industry, and I hope that it's something that we could see some movement on. So I appreciate your time today, guys. I hope you have a good morning, afternoon, evening. Thanks for watching today, and see you next time.